Hi folks, if you're watching this, you probably already know what to do and how to rebuild a coil, and I'm not going to insult you by showing you what a set of tweezers are. I just wanted to show you a build that I'm doing. It's a vertical coil build. I'm using the Kanger products. You'll probably recognize the parts. I love this coil. I love this setup. This thing is good in any of your pro tanks, even the new aero tank. It is good in the EVOD. I love it in the EVOD. Now, the problem with the EVOD is that it's a composite or a resin plastic tank, so it's not compatible with some juices. And then you've got Smoke Tech. They make something very similar, but it's a Pyrex tank. Well, this uses the same coil, so I can build one coil, use it in all my devices, and everything works out great for me. So the first thing, always, of course, is you're starting with your wire. And I'm going to go ahead and real quick here, I'm going to anneal this wire. This is a critical step for a number of reasons, and I'm not going to get all crazy about that. But one of them being that it gives it a new memory, if you will, so it's not so springy and much easier to work with. But there are other reasons as well. I'm going to go ahead and do a fairly loose 6-turn here, and I'm hoping to yield somewhere around a 2.0 coil, which works out well for me. This build, if you do it right and it comes out good, you won't even have enough juice in one of your twist batteries to fire this puppy up, but it'll get you on a good start, and I use it in all these. It just works out great for me. Again, it's going to be a vertical coil, and I think you'll see it interesting the way I wick it. That's a problem for some people. They pack in here and try all these things, but let me show you what I've come up with that works out just fine. I'm going to take this down and around one turn. Hopefully you can see that. That is going to be my positive on this. So the positive is going to run right through the bottom, the negative is going to stay up here. Here's the magic. I have a beautiful cotton wick. You can get this at a hobby store. It's actually made for jewelry. Make sure it's 100% cotton. If it's even if it says organic, boil it. It just softens it, makes it much easier to work with. Now, if you saw that, when I tied that down, there's kind of a nut, you know, where the knot itself comes together. Because I'm using two pieces here, I'm going to make sure those are opposed. Now, those are locked on the coil, and I can really lay into them and tighten them. I'm still working on the mandrel, so there's no danger in over tightening those at this point. Now again, I know I put my positive here, so we're going to bring that down so it's exposed a little bit. I'm just going to bring my negative. It's actually right outside of the wick. Okay. Now I know my short one, no matter what happens here, I know my short one is the positive. Now you thread the cup on, and that's the part that can, and it's going to drop right in on those nuts that you made. Now, don't over tighten here, but get it, it'll lay itself kind of right where it needs to be. You'll feel it, and put a little twist there. You are ready on this baby to go back together. Bring the insulator in and slide it right over that positive wire. So the beauty of this build, again, is that you're working on the mandrel. Things are able to stay centered. Put your insulator in. Even if it's fighting you a little bit, it's going to keep the coil up right where it needs to be. Okay, at this point, you can get your negative out of the way, bring it off, and bend this over and put your positive pin in. Now here's something that always works for me, and I would almost defy anyone to be able to tell me different. Don't cut these. Don't try and clip them or cut them with your scissors. Just start wiggling them. You're going to use the characteristics of the metal. It's going to heat up right at that shear point, and it's going to snap off nice and clean. You're not going to have any issues when you're threading this into any of your devices. It will not fail you. Put a little pressure on the bottom cup to make sure everything's good. Give it a couple twists. Be patient. And it's going to come right off for you, nice and clean, right where you would normally be cutting it. Okay, so those are out of the way. Now, before I go any further, before I clean anything up, make sure I got a coil. You saw that build. It doesn't take any time at all. Piece of cake. I know things look messy now, but we'll clean it all up in a second. I just want to get into the ohm meter here and see what we got. We've got a 2.49. So that one came out a little heavier than what I was hoping for, but that's okay. That's possible that's going to change a little bit by the time we're done, because I got to bend and tweak a little bit here. But we have a live coil. Now the reason I did this way, you see it? It's up higher, a little higher than I would like it to be, but that's okay too. Now what we've got is, the beauty of this whole thing is it can literally breathe all the way through the center. It's wide open. Now I'm going to compress this slightly, not much. I don't want to get all crazy here, but just a little bit into the cup. And you saw by tying those knots on there, the wicks are in place. I mean, they are ready to rock and roll. Now it's up to you. You can prime this. Whoops, you can prime this at this point, or you can just put it back together. But remember, with cotton, anytime you're wicking or using cotton, make sure you give it a little time, and you have to break these in just a little bit. But once you do, you can put the heat to these with voltage like nothing you ever saw, and you're not going to burn them like the traditional straight coil. Here's a step, don't miss it. When you put the gasket back on the chimney, just go around the edge. This is a source of like mystery leaks for people. So we are essentially done here. Let's clean this up. I'm going to test it one more time on that meter. I want to see what the final result was. Cut these off, and again, don't stress about this. It doesn't have to be perfection. Just close. With those 2 strands of cotton in there, it's just perfect. There's no leaks on these. They're just perfect. They work every time, and they work just like you want them to work. Okay, we got that baby in enough to see what it does. Yeah, it actually jumped higher, 268. So I must have taken an extra turn, but you get the point. I can usually get these right between a 2.0 and a 2.25, but that is a beautiful coil that's ready to rock and roll. I hope I showed you something that's helpful, and thanks for watching. Take it easy.